Wait a minute. I think this one's the whammon. What's up, guys? Mids watch. Ryan, you're catching this one. It's probably about midnight if you're catching it when it first comes out. Otherwise, at whatever time of day. Hope you're enjoying whatever work or study or goofing around or toilet time you're on right now. This is a rare one. If you don't know, these are mostly from the married red-pilled subreddit. A lot of married guys. It's not the Reddit you know of now. It was back when Reddit used to be fun and useful and very good. We had a rule back then where, girls come in, that's fine. Just don't start tone policing. We eventually had to do the full ban because it's like it just doesn't work. They just can't help but become women as soon as you start talking about some real shit that makes girls feel bad. But this would have been an early one by Aaliyah Catherine. She would have been probably the second or third, maybe the third field report I had ever seen from a girl. The first one was an old red-pilled coffee video, I believe, called Vampire Squidina, where she blames the subreddit on her husband getting a spine. Another one was somebody you may recognize from Twitter, Deads and Sushi, but yeah, this one. So I'll just get started. So I know this sub is frequented by men primarily, and I have posted in the Red Pill Women. Fortunately, very few of them can relate to my situation exactly, although I have received some helpful advice. I actually relate more to what a lot of the men here are going through, although I am a chick. Lack of sex, underappreciated breadwinner. Bedwinner. My significant other and I have 2 kids. I'm the breadwinner and always have massively out-earned him. I make about $200,000 a year, and he was making about $30K after he took a cut in pay from $45 that occurred while I was pregnant with our second child. And we made the decision that since we needed my income, that he should stay home since he always wanted to be a stay-at-home dad. It did not work out well. The house was a perpetual mess. He rarely cooked. I work 55 to 60 hours a week in a demanding field and feel both resentment and sadness about it. And frankly, I don't have the energy to do much else when I get home other than help with the kids. We talked and we decided he should go back to school, and I pushed this. I didn't know how else to curate respect for him anymore. He's now in community college for computer science, doing well, but only has one class during the summer. His mom comes over for 6 hours every day to help with the kids. Further, I have always had the higher sex drive. I need 5 to 9 times a week. He prefers weekly, if that, and I usually have to initiate it. It's obviously declined a lot over the years, but it's been a point of contention for us because I am really dissatisfied. I'm the same weight as when we met. I've dressed feminine, I wear makeup, I have tried backing off and not saying anything and trying to be coy and flirtatious rather than overtly slutty with him, which is frankly hard for me when I just want to whisper really dirty things into his ear. So nothing makes a difference. He says he just doesn't feel like it, and the sex isn't obsessed. He's not obsessed with the sex like I am. I am miserable all the time as the result. I feel like I am entirely the man in this relationship, but I have to take on everything, which makes me even more resentful. Since I am being the chick, I want to ask, how do I approach this, and do I sound unreasonable? Are we simply doomed to the role reversal? Do any of you have wives that out-earn you or work more? I'm sorry if this is an intrusion. And she kind of adds later on after this is all said and done, thank you so much for your replies and insight. I was reading the 12 levels of dread, and it might work. Like many of you gentlemen, I make unacceptable behavior really unacceptable, and it is very apparent I have the ability to move on and increase my own market value, or would this only further estrange and emasculate him? Now, this is the part we're going to address on here. This is why men and women are different, and I like it because Jack kind of flips the idea of dread on its head and shows a really good difference between them. Before I start on that, there's actually a video on my channel. It's an old red-pilled coffee where George Bruno, if you guys don't know, the barber sultan himself, the guy who... There's murderers in that building. You look it up. You'll see how funny it is. Anyway, he talked about being basically afraid of this idea that, if your wife earns more than you, you're basically done. And he would point to this like, look at this. This guy is done. And it's like, no, this is very simple red-pilled stuff. We actually talk about it in Praxeology of the Dominant Male, an old Ian Ironwood essay on the subject. The problem here is when you base your roles on economic input, that only matters if the man's the primary breadwinner and the girl's the stay-at-home mom. In Red Pill has always been about adapting. So in this case, you have a primary breadwinning wife and you have a stay-at-home husband. So if you use economic factors as your input for dominance in the house, of course you're going to end up in these situations. The thing is, though, you have to remove that as the factor. When she walks in the door, the only factor that matters is wife. The husband, I mean, most people will just look at this and go, oh, he's just soy, never be a stay-at-home dad, never do this. A bunch of platitudes and easy talking points because, it feels more macho. He works in a leather factory all day pushing iron, and you're like, it's not helpful, man. As much as we'd love to have everybody gets the ideal life, it doesn't work out that way. You mean to tell me you do your alpha male shit all day, you come home, and all of a sudden you find a girl and you marry her and have some kids, and then she finds out, hey, I'm making $300,000 a year. Well, here's my dick. Good luck, sir. No. You can still be a man. It's not hard. Just stop thinking that you just have to think you're more than a paycheck. Treat this stuff as a full-time job. To be honest, stay-at-home dad doesn't sound too bad. Take care of the kids, make some food, clean up the place. I was in the military. Cleaning was like a secondary profession. And then you got tons of time to work out. Think of all those stay-at-home moms that are flipping through their iPhone or iPad all day looking at nothing. Imagine if that was gym time. You mean to tell me you can't maintain a healthy sex life with that much spare time? It's like, come on, dude. But enough about my rants about it. Let's get into the meat of this. So Jack chimes in again. Who doesn't like Jack Tenahart stuff? So he's like, go figure. I was just starting to think about red-pilled women theory on the same week we're banned from their sub. Oh well, that loss. Side note, yeah, we got into a bunch of fights with the chicks because, well, there's two reasons. One, the chicks there took the attitude of, well, just because I defer to my husband doesn't mean I'm going to defer to you guys because you're red-pilled. And the other one with these guys is like, just because you decided not to nag your husband doesn't mean you get to nag us, and it just goes downhill from there. Red-pilled men and red-pilled women do not mix. It's like oil and vinegar, cats and dogs. Strategies are completely different. The ideas are completely different. And in fairness, of the red-pilled women, the moderators I knew over then, they were soccer moms. They were like, dude, they're horrible people, and they can't stand me, and I couldn't stand them, so I just generally stayed away. But every now and then the drama would start, and it would be pretty funny. Anyways, their loss. So in any event, I am beginning to conclude that the female version of Dread is basically an overt ultimatum. Think about it. We know women communicate covertly, so we advise against overt dread, hence the 12 levels of dread, and not just saying fuck me or fuck you. But men communicate overtly. Pickup, PUA, caught on with guys because it was concrete, actionable, overt advice. Not the usual bullshit like, I'll just go talk to her, bro, or be yourself, or you need to have more confidence. Things like negging scripts took it to an absurd extreme, but most guys just use that as training wheels anyway. Charles Bukowski, Jordan Peterson, Neil Strauss. I like these guys. Add some salt to cover up the bitterness of middle-aged soccer moms and put in the oven for 45 minutes. Optionally, you can take from all this stuff what you want and leave the rest. So enjoy Fuck Files. 15 lessons from a decade of women, now on audio. The advice we give on the red pill is similar. Concrete, actionable, overt. Concrete, actionable, overt. Remember those three things when you're watching your next red-pilled content creator, by the way, and you'll see that they don't have any of it. Red-pilled women seem to advise against, look, you need to shape up or this is over. But with men, the kind of covert action they suggest, be more feminine, nag less, let him lead, can only go so far. Almost all of us probably had some turning point in our life where someone, a father, a teacher, a coach, whatever, told us some version of, you're acting like a loser, and if you don't stop fucking around, you're going to be a loser forever. Or perhaps something like, as long as you're in this state, you're never going to achieve this goal. I cannot make it much more plain than that. So in other words, for a lot of men, the most significant moments that led them to significantly changing and improving their lives usually involved some sort of overt communication. I call it, personally, the 2x4 of justice. You just got to put it upside our head. We don't listen too well. We're not the brightest. We're not stupid. But every now and then you just have to like slap us up the side of the head with it because our egos just refuse to let us see it. So back to this. Here's the thing. If you're a woman who wants a happier marriage, red-pilled women advice is great for that. Their advice seems to be, look, your husband makes, $250,000 a year, manages 12 people. He's clearly capable of being a leader and also a kinder husband. So let him lead, Act kind and trust he'll act kind in response and see what happens. He will probably be more constructive than your current approach of verbally assaulting him every time he brings home the wrong type of ground beef. That, if you don't get that reference, we'll talk about it later, but it's absolutely hilarious. But Leah just doesn't want a happier marriage with the husband. She wants her husband to change, which is a different story. She mentioned letting him manage the bills and he fucked it up. The red-pilled women advice is irrelevant because the man's not capable of leading. Perhaps he doesn't care, perhaps he has confidence issues, maybe a mental disorder, but he won't change until he gets over himself and decides to change. And for a man, that kind of behavior requires overt communication as the catalyst. So my recommendation to women in these situations is basically some form of ultimatum, backed by actual consequences for the outcome. A classic example is something like, I'm going to my sister's. I will be back in a week. If you want to save this marriage, then you need to give me a plan on how you're going to fix your shit and then do it. I mean, this is kind of a bitch move, but it's also exactly the kind of message that the op will receive loud and clear. There are two caveats to this. One, as expected, is the husband may respond poorly and resentfully as we're naturally inclined to do when we receive ultimatums. When my wrestling coach told me I was destined to be a loser if I didn't shape up, my first instinct was to tell him to fuck off. And then I went home and I thought about what he said for hours and days to the point that I'm still remembering that exact conversation even today. Even if I decided he was wrong, the message was loud and clear and stronger than any form of communication he could have used. Other caveat is this. My coach did not want me to be a loser. He wanted me to change. He was more than willing to accept the change if I committed to it. He didn't question the change. He wasn't bothered by the fact he had to tell me to change, and I didn't conclude that for myself. He didn't say, yeah, you've changed, but I had to tell you to do that so it doesn't count. Unfortunately, women are not nearly as charitable. They want their man to just get it. As Rollo never hesitates to mention. Subtle, but I like it. So Op has to ask herself, if she issues this ultimatum and her husband gets his shit together, will she still hold that against him? He didn't just get it, she had to tell him just to get it. The best case scenario is Op's husband gets it without her having to tell him how just to get it, and at least feel good about that. But if Op is fine with that, and she very well may be, as she's already red pill aware, and she's willing to just ask her husband, potentially reacting poorly, hopefully at first, but you never know, then I think a fix your shit or I'm out is the best form of dread, because it's the most direct and overt message that a man needs to get his ass in gear, because it's a good fucking thing. Now, a woman working through the levels of dread will just produce the opposite effect. The covert messages will be missed or misinterpreted. The husband will probably withdraw further until he finally gets the divorce papers, which he'll say he never saw coming and will totally mean it. And he'll say, if you had all these problems with me in our marriage, why didn't you just say something? So yeah, say something, be overt, be direct, and make it as clear as you need to that his behavior is going to have certain consequences. He may not respond well to that message, but he will get the message. So the one thing on there that I want to add to this is my own little thing. I like how he put it. The ultimatum. There's a trick to it. You can't just say, she may not even know. I need you to do this. I need you to change this. She may not know that. But the way he worded it was, this is the outcome I am looking for. Going off to my sister's. You need to have a better sex life. You need to have this shit together. You know, house needs to be clean, taken care of. I can't come home and fix this stuff. You solve that however you want to. And it puts the onus on him to solve it. So, you know, men are natural problem solvers. So in this case, gets angry about it, gets pissed off, but he takes it and he feeds off that energy, eventually decides, yeah, she's got a point, fucking bitch. Starts working on these things. But it's not up to her to tell him how to do it. Just that it needs to get done. And then it's up to him. If he's invested in the thing, he'll do the stuff. If he's not invested, he won't do it. And he gives, and here's the good point too, is that this is kind of uncharted territory. This is really the only example we have, and it worked. But women like a man who just gets it. We all know that. And that's the problem. And this is why relationships, even though they're a woman's job, they can't fix them. It's a weird contrast, and sometimes it makes no sense. It just, you have to keep these opposite thoughts in your head. If she fixes it, she does this ultimatum, 9 times out of 10, the girl will then resent the guy for having to do it. Is this actually him changing, or is this him just trying to please me? and that neuroticism that girls have will fuck it up 100%. This is another reason why the red-pilled women, the red-pilled wives, the purple-pilled debate chicks, they never seem to get anywhere. They just spin around in circles. And, you know, there's certain feminine content creators here doing their own version of like a red-pilled woman. One of them, a girl named Ali, Femme Sapien. You might recognize her. We've done some podcasts before. I wish them luck, but I also know it's an uphill climb. Anyways, this was not so much applicable to you guys, but it's just neat to see the red-pilled concept flipped on its head with more feminine names. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.